Hello, hello. Welcome to the All In Podcast with Nate Peo. I am your host, Nate Peo. Thanks for joining me on this first guest episode with Sara Kilburn from Design Line Interiors. Sara Kilburn is a super connector, and she talks a lot about how to break down barriers and get people to become vulnerable and how to connect with them on a more intimate level than just collecting business cards, how to successfully navigate getting plugged into your industry and making friends and connections, or as we like to call it, clients who become friends, friants. So with that, go ahead and take a listen. Let me know your thoughts.
Want to go far in business and in life? You can't do it alone. The secret is expanding your network of personal relationships, building friendships, connecting on an intimate level, away from the office, over a coffee or cocktail. Welcome to All In with Nate Peo, the show that asks what happens when you go all in and leverage the power of your network of personal relationships.
I love your moving. Have you noticed all your podcasts when you're in the car, you're always like adjusting? Your first one is always, because that's your like, I'm getting comfortable zone. Have you noticed that? Go watch all your posts, your video posts.
No, I know I do. I constantly move and rocking back and forth. I was on a phone call with Michelle who did my podcast. I kept turning around like this. I was like, I don't know why I'm doing that, but I keep looking behind me.
It's an eye contact thing for one, and there we go. We close the door. It's an eye contact thing for one, I think, and then you're getting comfortable. Once you start talking and you're in the groove, then I think you're comfortable, and it makes a difference.
Yeah. I'm a nervous.
You would never be able to be a newscaster. They have to like stand still and talk like this and not move.
How's the weather doing? I'm probably just going to leave this in. Should we even edit this, or should we just roll with it? Like, I won't cut out the part where you're like walking around, because that was. I may have said something inappropriate, or I don't know. Okay. I can't recall, but you can go back. You probably did. We'll just assume you did. It seems logical.
It seems logical.
Oh, well, good morning, Sara.
Good morning, friend.
Attempt 2 on our podcast. So glad to have you on the podcast. This is our first episode. So I thought it would be great to have one of the people that I think is a super connector, and this show is about building personal relationships and networking. And there's no one better to have on as a guest that resonates those qualities of really getting to know people and showcase people for what they are. And so I think since I've known you, I've been inspired to get out of my comfort zone and meet more people and take more meetings and just kind of see where things go, because you never really know when you're meeting somebody where that might lead and who you might meet from it or what might become of it. So thank you for that.
Of course. I love seeing your wings spreading. I love seeing you at events with all of my friends, and I'm not there, and seeing you just like mingle, and I feel some small.
It's like when you start counting the people that I know, and I know, I guess fairly well even. I'm like, oh, a lot of them all kind of stem from an introduction from you, or an introduction from you that led to them introducing me to someone else. So it's really like, you kind of
like a Kevin Bacon thing.
It is 6 Degrees with Sara Kilburn. So anyway, how did you get how did you become such a connector and getting to, knew that was a talent of yours?
Well, first of all, I think being in the same industry for this specific, like the home building industry for 15 years, I think that's just a lot of sweat equity that you put in. And, one of my former bosses used to say, if you don't like what you're getting out of life, look what you're putting into it. So you're basically responsible for what you get in your life. And getting involved was the best thing I ever did. One of my, another previous boss, basically gave me no choice. She's like, you're going to get on the board and you're going to, shadow me for a while, and you're going to learn how we do it. And you're going to get involved and meet a lot of great people. And it will be, it'll be the best choice that you make in your career, because it's all about who you know anyway. And it's, extra bonus is job security. You make great friends. I mean, the joke is that my wedding was a super fun BIA event because of all the people that were there, people that I met in this industry. So, and that's, of course,
it's funny
from the
you
BIA.
say that, because I've met people in the industry that have been like, oh yeah, I went to Sarah's wedding. And you're like,
yeah,
it's such a small world to hear them say that.
Yeah. So I think you just, the more that you put in and the more you volunteer and the more you get involved on like a board level or committees or, the more people you're going to meet, the more friendships you make. And then when you go to events, you're more comfortable, and pretty soon it turns into just like a family reunion at every event. And it's awesome.
Yeah. I think when people are told like, hey, you need to go out, you need to go to networking events, you need to get plugged into the industry or whatever industry it is with yourself, like for most people, your initial thought is like, oh, I have to go talk to people I don't know and I don't know what to say, and I'm there to collect business cards, or I need to be like, if I go to a thing and I'm in sales and I don't walk away with a sale, like I'm there wasting my time.
According to who, though?
Well, that's the thing, is like, I think when you're first starting out, that's what you think is supposed to happen. Is that you're supposed to be, trying to, you're there for a reason. You're there to like collect cards and build this network. But that really doesn't work. Like what really works is you're there to get to know people on like a more personal level. And these relationships take time to build over time. And so if when you go out there with, it's me, this is what I do, this is what I can do for you, this is how great of a person I am, even if you're not coming across that way, you're kind of coming across that way, is that you're just pushing yourself.
People can smell a sale.
Yeah, they back off from it. But when you go into it with the effect of like, hey, what can I do for you? Who are you? Who could I help connect you to? How could I make your life better? You start bridging this gap. And I'm kind of leading into some things you do is because you're a master connector, a super connector. You do this thing where you find a way to make the conversation very quickly turn about the other person and get them talking about themselves. And you've also done a bunch of stuff that's, I would say, very unconventional of being there for somebody else. So, let's talk about it. Like, you use numerology to get to know people. So I'd like to, one, it's kind of a very unconventional approach to talking with people. Two, how did you get started with numerology? And three, like your experiences with it and how it's helped you bridge connections. And maybe a little bit about what numerology is too.
Yeah, well, and before we get into numerology, let me just back up with, it takes a while in your career to figure out what actually works, because you try everything, right? And really it boils down to just being authentic. And when you meet people, if you're just, you can just shoot the breeze or, just talk about whatever and get to know them and build relationships and connect with people without expectation. I think people can, like I said, people can always smell a sale a mile away. If you're talking about your company, they don't want to hear about that. You're at a networking event. And so, I have talked to people who are, builders and saying, I don't like going to that event or going to these types of events because these salespeople come up and they start talking about their company, and I'm not in that mode. I'm like having a beer, and I just want to say, hey, have a beer, dude. You don't have to try and sell your company right now. People ultimately do business with people they like, know, and trust. And if they can build a relationship and like somebody at this event, they're much more apt to go and have lunch with them, or go have a beer with them, or go have coffee with them, or have them in, or think of them when they have a project or a need. So I think the numerology thing was just sort of happenstance. I was on a business trip to Vegas about 11 years ago, and ended up sitting next to this woman who we just started talking, and I don't know, within 5 minutes, she's like, you're a 9. And I was like, what does that mean? Why am I a 9 and not a 10? Like, what does that mean? And she explained that the 9 is the humanitarian in numerology. And she said, I'm a 9, so I can always tell a 9. So anyway, she did my chart, and that's only a 45-minute trip. And within that 45 minutes, I was kind of blown away because I figured she was either stalking me and knew everything about me, or she was psychic or something. And I had her do my father, and she pretty much explained my dad in like 20 minutes, or in like 20 words rather, just from giving his name and his birthday. And so I was really fascinated by it. And I started, we actually became friends. She's one of my best friends to this day. And finally, when I was pregnant with my daughter about 4.5 years ago, she sent me a book, and she's like, I'm tired of doing it for all your friends and your clients. Like, learn how to do it yourself. So I learned how to do it, and started doing everybody in my life. And so it ends up being a great tool to connect with people, because first of all, people love talking about themselves. And, when you can dive deep into them and get them to talk, they feel like they are connected with you because they've shared their life with you, even if they know nothing about you. And then there's some part of it where they're, it always happens at the end. They're like, gosh, we've been here 3.5 hours, and I don't know anything about you. We need to have another date so I can hear about you. I want to learn about you. And so then and that's not why I do it, but it's the law of reciprocity. Mm-hmm. They feel that they've shared something with me, and so now they want me to be able to share something with them, and they feel contributed to, and they feel gotten, and they feel understood and heard. And so anyway, that's just been it's been a great tool, but that's all it is. It's just a little tool.
What I find fascinating from you've done my numbers, and I've watched you do countless other people's numbers, and it doesn't always start off that way of like, hey, Sarah's going to meet you and she's going to do your numbers. It's usually like, hey, let's meet for coffee, let's meet for lunch, and we start talking like, hey, what do you do? What, you talk a little bit about, your experience in the industry, the person doing their, it's the usual kind of like get to know you thing. And somehow the conversation always revolves into the numerology portion of it. Like either like you make a comment like, your personality tells me you're this, or something brings it up. Or we might say, hey, you should do so and so's numbers. Or they'll be interested and they'll ask, hey, do my numbers. And then the conversation very quickly becomes you getting them to talk about themselves, and they're letting down their guard. They're being a little bit more vulnerable. They might start sharing things with you that had that not even been the case, they wouldn't have brought up, or you wouldn't have even known that about them. So all of a sudden, when you go from like on guard, you're a little reserved, you're meeting somebody, you think they're going to ask you for a sale to buy something, or you're trying to sell them something. And all of a sudden you're talking about, stuff, experiences that you have had happen in your life that the other person can relate to. All of a sudden this conversation turns into, like you said, an hour and a half long lunch, coffee, whatever type meeting. And you've done nothing at all but talk about that other person. And they've also go, hey, this person really, really gets me. I feel connected with them. It's like my long lost sister, my long lost best friend, or I think you always say the brother from another mother, sister from another sister. That's the one.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, like you're more engaged with this person. And there's like, hey, I want to be around that person the next time. I want to hang out again. And these relationships evolve from being strangers to becoming friends to becoming business associates. And when we become friends first, it's not always about the one-on-one transaction. It's more like, hey, I'd rather help you get business elsewhere. I'd rather help you succeed elsewhere. I think there's other really cool people I think you should meet, or I think other cool people need to meet you. And that just, takes this networking thing even further. And when you repeat those steps for, like you said, 11 years, all of a sudden you have these connections to all over the world, all over the place, people in crazy different industries. I know like the amount of people I've met elsewhere, they say, hey, you should meet Sarah. And they go, oh, I already know Sarah. Or the people that you tell me about that I should meet that have nothing to do with the building industry that's came across has been amazing.
Thanks. Well, I think it has to happen organically. I mean, I never have like a set script. Like I'm going to sit down with them and say, you know, okay, you have your coffee. Okay, great. So I'm going to do your numbers. It's never like that. I think what are the circumstances of the day? Like very often for me, it's like, you know, my children or my kids, or maybe I'm like battling, you know, one of my kids are sick, or, you know, what I dealt with the night before or something. And sometimes I'll just say, you have kids. And so it's finding a background of relatedness to be able to start the grounding of like, oh yeah, I get you, you get me. Like that's their relatedness. Or, you know, if you're meeting with men and, you know, I shouldn't say men, but, you know, men or women who are more athletically inclined. Are they golfers? I mean, sometimes you know things about these people already before you meet with them. And, you know, you can get into their world and talk about something that they're passionate about or whatever. And so then from there, it just ends up organically moving into, you know, what do you do? Okay, well, if they ask, like, what do you do for the company? What's your position? What's your role? So then I'll talk about that. And I'll give a history of the company. If it comes up and they prompt that it needs to start that way, then I always start that way. And, but it needs to happen organically. Like sometimes they're nervous and you can just tell they're avoiding talking about business. So you just need to go with that. You have to read their body language. And sometimes I'll just, you know, ask them about their life. Are you married? No, you're not married. Okay, you have a boyfriend. And they'll say, oh, I just went through a breakup last week. And you know, we'll end up talking about that. And then sometimes I'll just mention, you know, so I do this little thing, I do numerology, and people are always like, oh, what's that? Or some people are like, you do? Oh my gosh, you know, I would love to have my numbers done. And then I'll say, well, I'll do it. It takes me 3 minutes. And 3 minutes to do it. And then it, you know, could take up to 2.5 hours to explain it all. But then, you know, once I've done it and they're super freaked out because it's very accurate. It describes them to a T. And, there's a lot of different components about numerology, from how you show up in the world, what your personality is, what you share out there, and then who you are inside, the part that you don't show. And then, you know, what's your life direction? What are the hurdles and the lessons that you're going to go through in your life? What do you keep running into that is actually there because that is what you are meant to perfect through your life path? So and then how does the world see you at first impression? So there's a lot of different components of numerology that I think are fascinating for people. It's all about self-awareness. And I think the whole trend of personality assessments in corporate America right now are huge. The top Fortune 200 companies, most of them are using some sort of personality assessment to help gauge who their employees are, to understand their staff, understand who they are, what their brand is, what their culture is, and kind of rebrand more centered around awareness and knowing who your staff is and understanding them. And this is just another way to do that, is to get to know your team. I've done it for everybody here. And so I think people are always like, well, I want to know how the world sees me. Yeah. I'm just curious. And that's the number I can usually guess. And that's people's birthday. So I always just say, like, sometimes we won't even start talking about numerology, and I'll just say, you're a 1 for sure. And they'll say, what is that? And I'll say, it's in numerology, it's the leader. Can I have your birthday? And they'll just give it to me. And I'll say, yep, see, there's your 1. And then they're like, oh my gosh, what is that? Can you do more? And so, I could just guess, not because I'm psychic, but simply because I know what these numbers represent. And if somebody is very, you know, they're very much falling under one of those categories, then I can just simply guess what they are. And, you know.
Well, I think that's important when you, like, when you're going through this whole thing, you have this idea of who you are in your head. But like when people start telling, like, this is how the world perceives you too, which is usually similar but different. Like you don't express all the things that are inside your head out to the world. So you have a persona, and sometimes your persona is like walls are up, and I'm very one person to some people and a different person to others. Some people it's a bit mix and match. But when you start realizing, hey, how do I relate to the outside world? How do people view me? When you start seeing how people view you, it helps you become whatever it is. You're a better salesperson, better connector, better leader, a better motivator. When you can relate to people who say, hey, this is how they see me. And maybe that's not how you want to be seen. Maybe you're not sharing a certain side of you that you think you need to, or you're not coming across a certain way. You're a bit more aware of who you are and how you can best approach things. So it helps you find your style, find the way of communicating whatever it is, your message to the world. And that helps you, I think, become more authentic. And I think that's another good trait that you showcase, that any good connector should have, is the authenticity of it. It's not like this canned, I'm going to do this for you, so you do this for me. It's very organic. It's very authentic. And a lot of times it doesn't even come up. But you've also done in the past a lot of interesting things too that is not conventional, that people, I think, really appreciate. Of course, you'd have to appreciate it for what I'm going to talk about is when you do like above and beyond things. Like if somebody says, hey, bad news, my weekend is about to go in the tank because the person built my cake for my son's birthday party, it fell through, and you're like, don't you worry about it. I'm going to drop what I'm doing. I'm going to help you out. And it has nothing to do with, hey, you do this for me, you do that. That's just like the type of person you are. So you've done similar stuff like that. You've been a doula. Like, what is a doula? And like, how do you get to be that type of person to somebody?
Well, first of all, a doula is, it's actually, the Greek word is servant. So I'm a birth doula. There are death doulas. There are, different types of doulas. So I'm a birth doula. I basically assist in the birthing of a child. And so when I have pregnant clients or friends and anybody who is unfamiliar with the birthing process, and I even did this before I had my own children, which really helps me prepare. I love doing that. I mean, it's such an amazing experience and being a part of that. I think a lot of people in business, and neither one is right or wrong, but I think a lot of people in business prefer to just remain business. And they do have a line in the sand where, this is business, fog your emotions. This isn't personal. And I just don't operate like that. You understood my new word, my science word is that these are my friends and my clients. And when I meet people, I build friendships first. And then sometimes they end up becoming my clients. And so, which is great. And if they don't, that's okay too. And I'm still friends with a lot of people that could potentially be my clients at some point, but maybe they didn't see that it was a good fit, or maybe they just haven't had the opportunity yet, or, for many reasons. But it's not about that. For me, it's just about deep connection and love, pretty much. That's what it boils down to. And that I love my friends, and I love my clients, and I love the people that are in my life that also contribute to me. And so whatever their needs are, I can help them, just like I would a friend. If, one of my clients' daughter's third birthday, the cake didn't show up, and she was just texting me, and I'm like, okay. And there's a bakery around the corner, and I went there, and I was like, which park are you, having your party? And I zoomed over there and delivered a cake. And if my clients or friends are having a baby, then I am there for that too. So, whatever their needs are. And it's not really, there's no in order to conversation. It's not let me take you to lunch in order to get your business. Let me deliver your baby so you'll give me your next contract. It's never about that. Right. There are no expectations for me. It's just, this makes me feel good to give and to love. And so authentically, and it's setting intention for the type of friendship that I would like. And I think it feels genuine for people. And so, I don't know, it's definitely unconventional, and a lot of people don't get that.
I totally get that feeling of like when you, for me, like if I'm chasing things that are for myself, or like a goal or an objective or a thing, you get them and you check the box, but the moment is fleeting. The fulfillment is like, okay, what's next? But when you like truly help somebody out without expectation, like when you help them achieve their goals, or you help them with something they need, like that fulfillment, that feeling is like immeasurable compared to like chasing stuff for yourself, that it makes me want to help more, and do more for people. And like, hey, I don't want anything in return. I just feel like when I do this, I'm doing it out of my heart, that I want to do it. You don't owe me anything for it. It's just who I am. But then people, like, they like that authenticity. You become this friends with people. And I think that's really where it matters. Like, we're going through this life together. We spend majority of the time with our our coworkers, or colleagues and stuff like that. When we're maybe younger, we have high school friends, college friends, and we have a life outside of work. But like, as you go through life, a lot of those friendships, they fall off because people have life happen. They get married, they get kids, your interests change, but the people you're interacting with in your day-to-day business, they're the ones that you spend a lot of time with, and you develop these friendships with people. And so it's important to have, not for me anyways, not to have your guard up and keep people at a distance to go, nope, these are business relationships that I don't want to care about that. And then I have personal relationships, but when you let them mingle and merge, like, you never know where that's going to happen. And I think you're just going to have some exciting times in your life and exciting experiences. Probably have nothing to do with business. They just truly become those same friends you had from other areas of your life, and you have those same relationships. You do anything for them.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, if you were the client, would you, if something happened to you, who's going to jump up and do anything for you? These are your friends that you can rely on, and you call, who you would call on. Those are the type of people that I want to do business with. If something happened to me, I mean, they would be there. They would check in with me, or, they actually care. And so I think that just, if you look at companies like Southwest, super successful companies, their main mantra is all about love. And it's just about, it's kind of golden rule stuff. It's the stuff that I teach to my kids every day. It's about showing respect, showing love, making good choices, and problem solving. It's like all life skills. These are just the basic fundamentals of how you should live your life. And it's short. It's very short. And I think also when you have lost people, you just kind of reevaluate, like, what really matters in life. I always tell my staff here, my friends, employees, that just eat the damn cookie. I mean, tomorrow you could, be in a car crash. God willing, it wouldn't happen, but you just never know. And so you just kind of have to just do what makes you feel good. Obviously, always maintain professionalism and show respect, and making good choices and doing the right thing. But when you can, care about them and do unto others. I was just having this conversation with my son this morning. It's just the same conversation at work that it is at home with my 3-year-old. I just don't think there has to be a line where, business is business. I mean, it can be. And I certainly have a lot of meetings and a lot of clients where most of the conversation is just centered around business. And that's fine. They will let you know if they want more, if they're open to more, if they want a deeper relationship. It usually ends up always going there, especially when you have one-on-one meetings, because then they become vulnerable. And I can even pinpoint, it's just math. So there's no psychic, this is not coming from me. It's just a tool. It's just math. But it literally ends up, some of this numerology stuff ends up unveiling what their challenges are, what their struggles are. So I end up becoming this like golden box of secrets that, people share with me, and I covet that. I feel like, that's really special that they end up sharing all this information with me, and that they trust me, because people, again, do business with people they like, know, and trust, and friends too. Friends are going to only be friends with other people who they trust. So
yeah, and I would add to that, when you're focused on the long-term relationship and establishing that, it's not just about like, hey, can I meet you? Can it turn it into a coffee? Can I turn the coffee into a sales pitch? Can I turn the sales pitch into a deal? But it's like, hey, can I turn meeting you into a coffee, into a lunch, to 3 months from now, we bump into each other at an event, we catch up, we go and do this, we see each other around, you're connecting people to other people. And all of a sudden 3 years have gone by, and you're like, you have an amazing network of friends that you've met from some initial interactions, and then the business starts to help. And then you're also referring people, they're referring you. I think when you just focus like, hey, I'm in the long term about just establishing a relationship, a friendship, a whatever with people I'm meeting and see where it goes, you're going to be way better off than just trying to worry about, hey, how can I take this to the deal? And I think you embody that persona. So
I think there's a difference between the word customer and client. I think that's kind of what that, for me, like a customer is like a one-time retail shopping. So you can go in and really push a sale and, dog on a pant leg and guerrilla marketing and, asking for the deal and being a closer. And that might get you one job, but the next time they have a project, I don't know that they'll necessarily use you. It might happen, but it might not. But when you build solid relationships that are based on trust and respect and friendship too. I mean, if there's something more there, those are the people that become clients that are lifers. I look at some of my competitors who are just amazing people, and I so embrace that their clients are so loyal to them because mine are to me, and I love that, and I totally get that. So it's a lifelong journey and building these relationships, and I applaud them for the trust that they've built with these clients, and anybody that has lifelong clients like that.
Cool. So I got one last question for you.
Okay.
What would be your advice, your recommendation? What would you tell people that are wanting to get plugged in, wanting to build their network, but they haven't really started, they haven't really done it? What would you tell them for advice of what they should do?
Two things. One, find a mentor. Find a mentor that's going to really invest in you and be a stand for your success and encourage you, but also kind of take you along under their wing. I am part of the mentor program for YGen, which is a part of BIA, and I love getting those mentees, and I love getting these new mentees who don't know anybody. And I'm like, all right, we're going to Builders and Brewers this weekend or this week, and I'm going to take you with me, and you just tell me who you want to meet, and I'm going to introduce you to a lot of people. So get ready for that. And so just finding a good mentor, somebody who really is, wants to invest in you and care, and utilize maybe your new boss or somebody who knows a lot of people, and just let them know, I'm looking for like a mentor, somebody who's not my boss or somebody who's not in my own company. Do you know anybody? I mean, I meet with, Lori Carpenter. I just met with her daughter last week. Mike McSweeney from the BIA, I've met with his daughter, and just people will call and say, hey, can you mentor, or can you just meet with my daughter who's interested in getting in business or is interested in design or, whatever. Can you just talk to her? And I love that. So I think number one is really important, is find some good mentors, more than one if you can. And number two, you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. You have to get out of your comfort zone. And it's really intimidating to go to an event when you don't know anybody, but you just have to do it. Because even if you meet one person, it's the same conversation I had with my daughter. She doesn't want to go to preschool right now. She doesn't know anybody, but I say just make one friend. If you make one friend, every time you go to that class, you're going to be excited to see that one friend, and then it will grow. And so it's just going to these events and talking to just 2 or 3 people. If you have to start there, just talk to 2 or 3 people and get to know them. And then next time you'll go and you'll see and know those 2 or 3 people, and you can meet 2 or 3 more. It is intimidating. I remember even getting involved in the very beginning of this industry in 2005 and not knowing anybody. And I was so quiet, if you can believe that. I was super shy and I was nervous.
Oh, that's impossible.
Yeah, but you over time, you just build relationships with people, and it always starts with the first step of just saying hi and just being authentic, or making a joke or something. It doesn't have to be about what you do for a living. It doesn't have to be about sales. It's just creating connection.
Yes,
so that's probably the 2 greatest pieces of advice I could give.
Well, that's fantastic advice. So, Sara, I appreciate you so much for redoing this first episode with me. People probably don't know, but we got together and did this, and I messed up and didn't record the audio.
We were just like this.
blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's what the video is like. So if you can read lips, we can post that video. You might get some nuggets of knowledge. But I think, my lesson learned is hey, you're going to have hiccups along the way. You're going to suck at things when you do it the first time. But the more you do it, the more you can get better at it. So same thing with networking. It gets easier to find your way, find your path, and find your way of showing the world who you are and connecting with others. So if you want to find Sara, she's at Design Line Interiors, and they're located in Del Mar, California. Fabulous interior design firm. She's also on LinkedIn, so I'll post a link if you want to find her on there. But probably the easiest way is to shoot her an email. And if you're in the building industry, she's definitely a must-know person. But even if you're not in the industry, you can't go wrong knowing her. So if you want to get an introduction, feel free to email me, and I'll hook it up and set it up. So thank you so much for coming.
Thanks, Nate. Of course. Thank you.
All right. Have a great one.
Bye. Thank you. You too. Bye.
Make sure to visit our website, therealnatepeo.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, so you'll never miss an episode of All In. While you're at it, if you found value, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if simply tell 2 friends about the show. Looking to connect? You can find Nate Peo on LinkedIn or Instagram.